Hello and welcome and in this lesson we're going to look at how to manage resources in programming in general. My name is Mild. We looked at how to handle files in Python. Let us try to recall. Let's create a file to illustrate how we use up and release resources when we handle files. We create a variable called my file, and in this variable we want to store a file, but we're going to be creating this file for the first time. And let's say the name of this file is, let's say, my file. I want it to be a text file, and we want to be creating this file and we want to write to it. So I'll use the X mode. So put the file name and the mode. What I want to do next now is to write to the file. So I'll say my file dot write, and I want to write hello file world, and then I'll put my file.close. If I run this and I come here, I'll see my file.text created, open this and see hello file world. But what happens when we forget to put this line closed? Let's first of all look at how to check if the file has been closed. So I'm going to print my file.close, and then to print true if the file has been closed and false if the file has not been closed. And because we closed the file, have true printed. The file already exists, so we don't want to create the file anymore. Let's put it in read mode. We're not going to write to the file, we just want to see if it is closed. And it said through, so it means that the file is closed. In the event that the file is not closed, we don't put this line, and I delete the name of this file here so that we can recreate it, and then check if it is open or closed. I'll clear. At this point, I've commented out the close line, and when I run, I will have my file.close will be false, which means that the file is left open. So sorry, this is going to be in X mode, and then I'm going to run, and I have false. It is not closed. If we forget to close a file, we use resources when we open this file, and the program will still hold the resource until we close. We don't want to always stand the risks of not closing resources or releasing resources. And most of the time in programming, we do this with files and with even database connections. There's one solution we can use, which is the use of context managers. In Python, we have the with statement written W-I-T-H, and anything with the with statement is a context manager. If I say with open, and I'll delete this file so that we'll recreate it. So if I say with open, the name of the file, which is my file dot extension txt, and I want the mode of this to be X, we're going to create, put a colon. It's just like defining a function, but we're using the with statement. And what happens with this is that once you use a context manager using the with statement like this, it defines an entrance and exit step, which is run automatically when the with block is entered and exited. So when I do this and I say print f.read, let's open this okay, we are going to be writing to the file, and let's say we use the has to alias what it is. Instead of creating a variable, has f, and then I'll say f.write hello world, and then I'm going to say print outside of the block now f.close, and I'll clear here. So what I'm doing here is I want to create a new file called my file.txt, and I want to write the file, and then I exit the block without closing. But when I print f.close, it should print true, because when you use a context manager, once you exit the block, it automatically closes the file. So you don't have to be burdened with trying to always make sure you release resources. But once a file or a database connection holds up resources. So when I save this and I run, it's true, it is closed, even without explicitly stating that we should close the file. So this is one method, and you see the line of code is just to use the with alias has and put a name, just like assigning the open function to a variable like we did earlier. You know, we can also do this context manager stuff using classes, and for the class we'll need an enter and exit method. Let me just illustrate that so that you can see how it looks like. Let's say we want to create a class, and for this class we want to use it to be the context manager for the file handling. Let's say class file handler like this, and it's going to take, let's say it's going to take an object, and we want to define the properties of this. So we say dev init. You can do it in several ways. My Copilot is suggesting, but I'm not going to use this suggestion. I'm going to write something easier. So do init, and then we always put self as always, and then we want to define the two parameters that we always supply to the open function, and which is supposed to be the file name and the mode. And then we are going to do self.file name is equal to file name, self.mode is equal to mode. We can also do self.file equal to none, but we would use a different method to do this. Now we need an enter method like this. Instead of saying self.file name equal to file name, self.mode equal to mode, we can actually make it shorter. Do something like self.file object like this, and we say it's equal to open file name and mode. So this will open the file. So we made our code shorter and cleaner. Now we have to define the enter and the exit method. In the enter method, we want to return the file object, and in the exit method, we want to close the file. So we'll do def exit. So for the exit method, there are three required parameters: the type, the value, and the traceback. And I'll tell you what this means. We need these three for us to allow the with statement to be able to handle errors and exceptions. So anytime the exit method returns anything that is not true, then we want the with statement to be able to raise an exception. And the exception it raises is that it passes this type, this value, and this traceback of the error to the exit method to be able to raise the error. So this is one short way of doing this. And how do we use this? So we say with file handler, and we want to create a file called txt.text, and in write mode we want to write f.txt here, and we don't need to close the file. We're done. And when I clear here and I run, we should have a new file called test.txt, and when we open the content of that file, it should be written test. So we'll have a new file called test.txt. Let me see that. Yes, it's here. And then open, and we'll have test written in it. So this is an example of how we use Context Manager to manage resources better in Python. We also have something we call generators in Python, where we can implement this Context Manager using decorators and generators. And we look at decorators in the previous lesson. And how we do this is we have a module called the context lib module. And what we want to do is that from context lib, we want to import Context Manager. Recall how to import modules. You can just simply say import a particular module, or you want to import a particular function or class or method from a particular module. Now, recall also how we use decorators. So we use our Context Manager, and all we need to do now is to define the file name, the mode, and we can use a try finally block, where in the try block we open the file, we yield now, and the finally block will close. Now, what is the purpose of using the yield? When Python encounters a yield keyword, it creates a generator. Now, what is a generator? We're going to look at that in the next lesson.